Alright everybody, welcome back to another DevStream. Running a little bit late on this morning, so if I seem a little bit frazzled, that's what's going on. If you're just catching up, we're making a game. We're trying to do it in a year. And today we're taking a little bit of break from our usual game stuff because we're pushing for the playtest and we're doing some art. So last week we were looking at rigging our new owlbear character. And today we're going to spend some time trying to come up with some different animations and stuff for this character. I figured out what some of the issues that we were having last week was. It just turns out that I forgot to click apply. And now my characters are building and we should be up and running. So today we're either going to try to do an attack or an idle or both. I'll show you some of the challenges that are involved with this. As always, shout out to Patreon. Thank you for supporting it. This is a dev stream. You will hear Patreon members in here asking questions, chatting, etc., keeping me sane, making sure I don't do crazy stuff. But thank you to everybody who is supporting the channel in whatever way they are, whether it be watching, spreading the word, Patreon, etc. Very much appreciate it. So, my name's Kevin. Let's go. We've got, if we take a look at this, we've got our now rigged owlbear. So let's talk a little bit about kind of what that means. So basically, as we were going through, hopefully if you saw last week, you understand there's a 3D model file, there's a skeleton file, and then there's what I call a marionette kind of setup for people who aren't familiar with 3D and the way the process works. And the build process combines that all together. It's a procedural build system that I built a long time ago. And it basically builds this character. Once the character is built, then you get to animate it frame by frame. And it's actually something I actually really enjoy doing. And the way that works is you can see here, you get all of these are all of the controls that allow us to move our character. And if you pick any of these and move them, they cause your character to move about. And we're going to spend some time trying to come up with some attacks and some things like that today. Did you all have any questions before I get going on this?
Not me.
Neither.
Cool. A couple things that are worth noting about this is we are experimenting with what our final look is going to be. And so we're experimenting with not a 2.5D, but a half 3D process where what we're going to do is we're going to actually take what we do here in our 3D program and we're going to export it as sprites that we then use as a 2D element in our game. There's a lot of reasons why we're trying that, but because of that current shot at our style, it's worth noting that we have to lock our camera. So the camera that we have set up now is meant to be here so that every time we render the sprites for the game, they're always the same size. Otherwise, if we don't, our character will change sizes as it goes between the different abilities and everything that we're trying to do. So I did set up our register camera. That's what this view is. That's what you can see here. And one of the things that we need to try to discover today is how much space this character needs to move. And what I mean by that, especially with this character, is dude's got a hammer. And if he puts the hammer in his hand like this, for example, if the hammer is too far out the back, it can start to get to the edge of the frame. And then that would be clipped off, for example, in the sprite. So that's not going to work. He's standing still right now. When he does something like swing this hammer around in a circle, which I think we should try today, we need to make sure there's enough room at the edges so that the character can spin and swing the hammer and everything's in frame. Otherwise we'll have to redefine how our camera register for this particular character. Okay, so what do we got here? What I've been experimenting with is, from an animation perspective, this character is going to be a little bit tough because he's a bit of a beefcake. And what I mean by that is getting nice silhouettes for him where you can read what he's doing is going to be tough because he's just so bulky. And so a lot of what this is right now, all I did was I went in and I started experimenting with poses, and I was trying to find poses that just had a nice, appealing read from this particular camera perspective. And so when we go through these, there's a couple, like for example, this one. What's great about this is the hammer's in the backhand. It's not blocking the character's body, and you get a nice read on the character, okay? Whereas this one is also a great one. I like this one as well, and I'm going to talk to you about why I particularly like this one. This one's not bad. There's something about dragging this heavy hammer behind him that I think is pretty cool. There is a little bit of this hammer should not be heavy for him, so would he actually drag it? Kind of question I have in my mind on that one. This one's fine. This is what I'm talking about. Because the hammer's in his right hand, we're looking at it from this perspective, what ends up happening is that the giant, massive endpoint of this hammer is now covering the character's body. So it's a lot, it starts to become a much more difficult read on what our character's doing. This one's not too bad, but same thing, there's kind of a lot going on here. Maybe this one could be just as simple as if we move this hand down a little bit. That one might be a better read like that. And once again, it's just your eyes reading the silhouette. So we're going to pick one today. Now, here's the other factor. I have a lot more experience animating for film than I do for game. The reason I mention that is one of the things that I found and learned by working with some amazingly talented gameplay animators, as well as doing some of the animations for different games I've worked on, and even a little bit of the animations that I've built for the Rend so far, is in order for the character to feel reactive, moves need to be instant. So what I mean by that is when you go to attack, if you force the player to wait too long, your game feels sluggish. The reason that's a challenge is to take a giant character like this and make it feel like the attack happens instantly is difficult, because it means that the character is skipping all the animation and just going straight to the attack. And so if you recall, or maybe you don't recall, I'll show you real quick. If we look at the attack combo for the Avrith, take a look at our first frame. He's already attacking. And this is what's in game right now that feels good. All right, and so it's not just we need to make a cool looking animation. We're gonna do that, but we also have to factor in that we want that first frame of animation to be big so that the player, when they press that button, it feels like something's happening right away. Even if it's still 15 more frames or 10 more frames for the actual swiping to happen, it feels like there's an instant feedback for the player when this happens. Okay, so with that in mind, what I want to mention is the amount of time it's going to take to get from, so right now the hammer's in front of the owl, okay? In order to do a wind-up, to get the hammer behind the owl and then back in front of him, depending on what our idle pose is, will take longer. So we're going to experiment with, like this idle pose potentially seems slow to me, because what's going to have to happen is, do I have it? I do have it. Okay, what's going to have to happen is, let's just do one. If we take this guy, this hand, and we move it back, okay, and then we put the hammer back in his hand, okay, the problem is, from a player perception, the hammer has moved from in front to the right. That's almost like it could be an attack right there. And that's just to get the antic. And now the actual swipe is going to happen. So it's potentially confusing because we have to go away to get back. So strategically, I want to pick a pose potentially to start with where we have room to do that. Now, this one is a great starting pose, for example, because what he can do is he can just stretch out. I don't have to worry about conflicting messages to the player for the wind up in animation terms, and I can just do a smash or swipe or anything. So this one's pretty good. I actually think this one could be a lot of fun because the hammer's already back. And so I actually want to try on this one. But anyways, that's enough explaining all the fun with animation. Let's get going and just try a couple. So let's do an idle first. Or actually, let me ask, do you guys want to do an idle first or do you want to do an attack first?
You want to do the idle to get into the groove, or do you just want to jump right into it?
I mean, this is going to be abysmal either way, so it's gonna be it's up to you all. Let me save some.
Swing.
Here. Swing. You guys want to do an attack? Okay, so let's do.
I want.
Yeah.
All right, let's do the attack. Let's do. How are we naming these things again? Hold on, let me double check my naming. What I used before. Attack combo A. Okay. So let's save this scene. And this is going to be Owlbear. I am going to do this A attack combo A. Reason being is I'm going to call this the A idle pose for us to start to wrap our heads around this. Okay, and let's take this. We're going to start with let's start with this one. Let's do the fun one first. Not that the other one's not going to be fun, but I mean fun in a challenging way. So let's delete all of our other animation. Make sure we're at a good starting point. Okay, cool. So this is going to be our frame 0. So frame 1. Wait a second. Oh, I didn't do the hammer. I forgot the hammer's not part of my selection set. Give me 1 second. This should be my hammer. Delete. Okay, cool. We got a clean first frame. So let's save this. All right, the very first thing I want to do, frame 1, I told you we need a big, something like a big move that kind of shows what's happening. So let's try a lead with the right hand. This is going to be fun because he's so big. It's getting these silhouettes is going to be a challenge.
I just had an idea about how you could get away with having him drag the hammer and also make sure that the animation, the attack animation is responsive right when you click it.
Okay, I like it.
So is it crazy to have 2 idle animations, one where he's dragging it on the ground behind him, the other where he's got the hammer like loaded up on his shoulder, and his basic attacks, one of them could be swiping upward from the dragging position, and then after he attacks, he's in a new idle position where it's sitting on his shoulder, and then the next attack you do does it like a downward smash thing, and then it's back on the ground.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking here. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So, well, yes, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the first attack from this be exactly what you're talking about. It's going to be a swipe up, right? And then the to your point, the idle that you go to as part of the combo attack between could be the hammer on the shoulder, for example, right? And then you could go from there to the swipe back to the main idle. The trick is, if the player in a combo attack animation, if the player misses the combo, you have to return to idle, right? Well, generally speaking, you return to the core idle, right? Not the combo in between idle. And the trick with this particular idle is returning to this after all of our moves could be a challenge. And that's why I said this one's going to be a challenge. Because the question is, after our attack, can we get back to the idle in a way that doesn't seem goofy or any of those kinds of things? So yeah, that's what we're going to try. That's a great idea and a good call out. So
is it always a 3-hit combo?
No, actually, I was planning on. God, this character is just so damn appealing, though. I was planning on trying a 2-hit combo with this guy. Actually, I thought that might be fun to try. This whole hand above the head thing may be a bit much, but we're gonna try it. Also, this shoulder is way too far in front right now. Or behind, I mean. Yeah, these pauldrons are gonna be a pain in the butt. But that's okay, we'll work with it. That's why I put a control on the pauldron, just so I can move it independently of the shoulder. I want to be careful with how much I'm doing that, though, to start with. Because if I'm animating pauldrons per frame, it's going to be a lot. All right, we'll figure that out in a second. Yeah, that's going to be tough. The cool thing is, we don't have to make it perfect. We just have to make it look good because we're rendering. So we can cheat. We can totally cheat. And I can do things like scale up the upper arm like this, right? Okay, so and then let's drive this right leg up. Hold on. Yeah, I don't know. That may be too much with the arm. And then let's move this hand down. And the hammer is going to move down with it. Undo, undo. Let's go back. I need to rebuild this pose. And then I need to go back and apply this pose. Okay, so our hand. Well, let's do this. I'm not sure how this is going to work, you all. We may need to go straight to this pose instead. This hand's way too far out here in space. Let's go back to 1. I don't know if him looking up here is the way to go either. Oh, am I not in step mode? Hold on. Windows. Okay, so animation graph editor. Yeah, everything's smoothed out right now. So things are moving when I don't want them to be moving. Let me set some keys. It's gonna make posing this very difficult otherwise. Okay, and then let's change all of this to stepped. Okay. All right, so we got. Maybe we just need to work on this pose. So this pose is gonna be hammer, right hand, swoop around, right hand hammer, and it's gonna need to be if I go from here to here. Okay. Where is it? It's here. Okay, and then hold on, my keys are set to not stepped. Hold on. Animation. I used to have a hotkey that did this, and then we updated my versions, and I haven't used Maya in so long. I gotta remember where this setting is. .30 frames a second. Display, settings, animation, rotation, tangents. Here we go. Stepped. Stepped. I think it's flat. Okay. Hopefully that'll help us. All right, cool. All right, and then for our next pose, all right, now let's bring this over the top. So to do that, I'm gonna go like this. And we're gonna take this hand. Bring it way over here. Now it's a little bit broken. We'll fix it. Apply the pose. Let's get the shoulder into it. And then let's get the arm down. I would really like to be able to see his hand though. Apply, where's that put the hammer? Okay, that's not bad. Let's get the shoulder. Obviously we need to turn the head a little bit. It's kind of a bummer that so this is kind of part of the discovery. It's kind of a bummer that the character gets to the point where he's just facing away from us, doing it like this. And I'm not sure what the recovery looks like, so hold on. Let's bring this foot. Right hand. Okay. So I'm not getting the silhouette on the arm that I want right now. And it's probably, oh, well, the left arm is in the way. That's part of the problem. So let's do this. Let's bring the left arm to where it should be. And our left shoulder as well. So that's default. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Boom. Boom, 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 boom. So, roughly speaking, so this is where you get into the problem. So if we take this, I mean, we could spin them all the way around. There's one thing we could do, but we somehow have to get from this pose here. Finish. We'll do one more. We'll finish the swing. Let's go. Select all. And I should have kept the other poses in here. I don't know why I didn't do that. That was a mistake. Key this. Let's take this pose and we'll move it out. I'll take this pose and add it in. I'm going to take this pose and keep it over here for later. And then I'm going to delete it for now. That way I can scrub through this. Oh, I messed up. Hold on, I messed up. Okay, I need this pose plus the hammer. And let's put this all the way over here at like 33. And then this pose didn't have the hammer in it anyway, so we can put that here. Then we can delete this. Okay, and then we can replace this with this as our starting point. Okay, and now we can shorten our time frame. And that'll let me cycle through it. Okay, so we got to get from this to our next pose. So let's just go ahead and finish the swing, and let's just see what this feels like. Take his shoulders. Bring it all the way through. Take his right arm. bring it down. We are definitely running into pole vector issues with it though. That's okay. So rotating that does nothing for me, but this will. Okay, and then if we apply this hammer pose, okay, and we'll bring the body down. And let's start to bring the spine. Hold on one second, y'all. You know, doing streams during the holidays is kind of crazy, y'all. Okay. Sorry about that interruption. Okay, so we got him kind of slowing down. We need a return. And so we got to kind of figure out what this is going to look like when the hammer finishes. I'm not liking the arcs or anything, and this was part of what I mentioned was going to be the challenge of doing this character from this idle pose. We can do it. It's just, what did I just press? It's scary, whatever it was. Okay. Okay, we'll set a key there. All right, let's bring this shoulder down, this hand down. And let's just, we'll figure out the footwork maybe, but to give this pose some strength, it's gonna need some, there's gonna need to be a foot back there. And then let's start to unwind this a little. Am I? Undo that. Something doesn't seem right here. Okay. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Select all. Key that. Make sure we have a key there. And then let's start to unwind this. Bring this shoulder down. Bring the left hand down. This is the hand with the hammer in it. So we want to make sure that we have keyed the hammer. Apply the pose. Oh no, that's not the hand with the hammer in it. It's the other hand that has the hammer in it. My mistake. It doesn't look like the spine is unwrapping though. Is it though? Oh, it is. It is, it's just not reading that well from here. Okay, then we're gonna settle our weight back on this foot. And I think we should also, as we start to unwind this, we should start to bend it back this way as well. And then let's get the head and the neck to start to turn around. Like he's starting to look back towards. Even that is something. I'd like to get his eyes back as quick as possible. Maybe not that quick. So then in this pose, I want to be able to see his head. That's just it. I want to be able to see, I mean his eyes. I want to be able to see his eyes. So by here, we're full on seeing his eyes, for example, his left hand is heading back to where it's supposed to be. And then let's deal with the right hand real quick. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Okay, so the arc on this is bad. Boom, boom, boom. It's too high, too low, I mean. So let's go up with it and apply this pose. And we can probably take the hammer and not even cheat it, just object. Let's follow the arc of the hammer. Yep, doon. Actually, no, that doesn't work. Let's go. What is happening with this hand? I see. It's stuck inside of him. I think we need to drag the hammer more on this frame for this to read better. Yeah, that's better. Tilt it up some. So I'm looking at the arc this hammer's taking. This probably needs to be up a little. I'm specifically looking at the head of this hammer, and if you just trace it with your eye, it goes jink, jink. Your eye can follow that. So that feels better. We just need to fix this one here. So we could probably bring this up maybe. And let's take a look at this from another angle just to see what's happening behind the scenes. So if you look at it, so even though we can cheat to camera, being able to see it from another angle and being able to kind of see what's happening physically might help us, because like this hugs his body pretty tight between these two frames, and then all of a sudden it's way out here. So it might be worthwhile keeping the silhouette but moving this out so we get a bigger arc from the head of the hammer. And then this part, you can see it's like it does this bump. So if we pull the hand back and apply the pose, the head of the hammer takes a better arc around the outside, right? That's kind of what I'm trying to get to. I did not want to close that. That was a bummer. And then we're at frame 5. Okay, there's starting to be something there. It's slow. and then we get our settle. I think we can do this. And then we're going to step back. Now, here's the trick. To Naroda's point earlier, are we actually going to step back? Or are we, maybe what we do is, like, there's so many ways that we could address this. After we do this initial swing, what we could do is just have the character grab it with their left hand and put it on her shoulder. Like, we could do that. And that's the middle stage. And then if you hit the combo, then you do the next attack, right? Or what we could do is we could have the character settle in weight. Like, let's do, so that's one thing we could do. The trick with that one, by the way, let me finish my thought. The trick with that one is if you do that, then if they miss the combo, you have to get all the way back to the hammer being dragged behind them. Because if they go to spam the first attack and they keep missing, it's going to look weird. So there's a lot to figure out here. There's a lot about this pose that needs to be fixed, like the shoulder tolerance in his face, the read, etc. But we're just trying to find the weight of it right now. Yeah. What's up, Rusty?
How plausible is it to have two different idle animations? So
Totally.
He could start from either pose.
Totally possible. Totally possible.
Then if he's got it on his shoulder and they don't fire the second hit of the combo, it doesn't matter. He's already sitting in idle 2.
Yeah, we can totally have idle 2. What it does is it definitely complicates the state machine. But it is doable. And for this character, I'd be willing to do that if it's cool, because this character is Patreon only. At least that's what the thinking is right now. I don't know if we can do custom everything idols, multiple idols and everything for every character in a year. Like there's just I mean, you can see we're almost at an hour already, and this will start to gain momentum. We'll start to make more progress. But you can see this is sort of a slow process.
Yeah. It took me an hour to animate a sword going straight up in the air and coming down unattached to my character model. So I understand.
But you can kind of see if you squint, dude, there's an attack in there. Right?
I'm seeing it.
Yeah, it's in there. We should save this, y'all, before my machine crashes. So at this point, I think, yeah, let's see. It would be cool to try to figure out one more pose. I'd like to clean this pose up too, but okay, and the pose that I want to figure out is coming back to, oh, I closed my window, man. Panels, perspective, panels, tear off. You can hear the typing, just so you all are aware.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. I literally don't mind if you guys are typing and doing all kinds of other stuff. I just for the stream, the audio as well.
Yeah, I'll mute it up.
Okay, so let's. How far off from? That's default. Okay, we're not gonna do that. Okay, let's bring our right arm back around. Okay. Just curious, if I zero this out, does that help me get it to where I need it to be? Getting there. Okay, and then the hammer, we're going to change this. Let's go left hand hammer, apply. So we switched hands. Okay, it's gonna switch hands. Let's drop the shoulder so we get a better read on the face. Pull it back a little bit. And let's take the left hand. What am I looking at right now? The left hand's a mess. Here we go. That's better. And then just twist it down. Interesting. Interesting. Let's do. Okay, that's too fast, but you can kind of see what we're gonna do is we're gonna swing around, we're gonna settle a bit, then we're gonna switch hands, okay? We need one more pose in here before this pose, because this could be the windup for the next one, right? So if we take all of these, if we set a key here and a key here, and then let's try to cheat something here real quick and see if we can get a pose for free. Let's delete this. And then let's take these keys. Select all, key this. Wait a minute. I was trying to get a free key. I did not get a free key. Select, select all. Okay, so we're here. Then we're going to here, and between here and here, let's delete this. And then let's change these to linear. Okay, so he's gonna move. We'll set a key. Okay. There is no way. Okay, so maybe. Yeah, we didn't get the free key. Let's try. Okay, I think the turnaround's too fast. Yeah, there's someone in there. You can kind of see, again, if you're squinting, you can kind of see the handoff could happen, and then he's ready for the next swipe. And we got a nice little foot placement in here. You know what? In an hour, considering how long it's been since I've animated, like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not upset with this entirely. We've got a nice like foot change here, which is cool. There's a couple arcs we gotta fix, some poses, like the read on this one, like he's got a pauldron in his face. It would be nice to free that up some way so we get a better read on his face. And there's we may have to cheat a couple of these things, like so they make sense. We'll figure it out. I don't want that higher though, for sure. This pauldron is huge. Also, I don't understand why the axes. Let's cheat it down a little. Cheat it down a little. Okay, the arc on this is a little bit off. If we take this and we go more like here. Yeah. Better. So, unfortunately, due to all kinds of holiday fun and everything that's happening, this probably shouldn't dip like this. We should probably keep this up. So what I mean by that is, I think the hammer to track the arc should be more like this. Maybe not. Okay, oh man, you know, it's a good experiment. I think there's a cool thing in there, but basically we get to, what we can do is there's two things we can get to here. To Naroda's point, we come around, we do the handoff to the other hand, okay? And this would be the anticipation before our next strike, for example. And in between here and here is an idle pose with like the hammer on the shoulder, for example. Like that could be a thing. But the way this is showing so far, I can at least see I can see it, right? There's a swing, there's a settle, there's a handoff, and then we're into the next pose. And so what we would do is, oh, interesting. This is going to be a pretty muted combo then, though, if we do that. So one thing we could do, for example, is make it 3. We could make this 3. We come around, we swipe, we come back to here, we do a swipe the other way, and then we're back here, and we get back to here, and we do a two-handed spin to win thing, where we grab the end of the hammer, and we just swing around to get all the enemies around us. Like, I could see that. But this is going to be fun. So overall, the plan here is I'm just going to work with a couple of these different situations. I'll probably rough out a version of an attack combo from this idle pose. And actually, I did want to show you one other thing before we call today. The idle pose, it's kind of fun to do this kind of thing. If we just grab all of our elements that we need, roughly speaking, you can kind of see what the idle pose is going to be. It's going to be something like, you could do something like this, right? I've played with it being back here, but that's not it. This up and down thing I don't think is going to work either. So I think it's just more of a subtle kind of up and down like this. That's what we're going to start with to try and go from there. But anyways, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish blocking out this animation to see if I can get to a two-hit combo here, maybe 3. Trying it from this idle pose. Then I'll probably do a block out from the other idle pose with the hammer on the shoulder, just to see if that one's a little bit easier to work with. And then if it is easier to work with, then maybe we go with that, or maybe there's a world because this is a special character. Maybe we do update our animation state machine to allow for a double idle situation, and we can go from there. So, anyways, before we wrap this up, I know today was a blitz, a very fast stream. We're going to be focusing on, I'm actually not going to be doing a bunch of animation right now. One of the reasons we're doing this is I'm trying to make sure the artists have what they need to keep going, but also because I don't want to touch the game right now because we're trying to get to the next release. And I literally changed nothing last night. I woke up this morning and no damage works. I didn't, like, thanks Unreal. So before we wrap up though for this one, did anybody have any questions for the stream on this one?
Maybe just a quick one. How do you feel about using different assets for like simulating motion between frames? Like they used in this, what was it, the Netflix K-pop Demon Slayer, where they used, it's a whole 3D movie, but
Yeah.
they do asset replacement for like frames, but I think
Yeah.
it's because they mostly animate on twos. How do you feel like, is that a lot more work to do, or can you just like stretch like the mace a little bit to sell the swing a little bit more?
So the answer is both. The answer is both. So, actually I know a lot of the crew on that movie, and same types of things on Spider-Verse and stuff like that, and a lot of different movies. That is a very common thing to do in animation, where like if you spin. A character has you see it in even some of the old school stuff, like a character is spinning, they've got 4 arms, not 2, and they
Like the
do
Looney
that.
Tunes gets crazy.
Yeah, like the Looney Tunes stuff gets nuts, and you do that to fill the blur frame. In this kind of situation though, totally legal. Here's why, and this is why we can absolutely use that. I think we can use it, one, because we're rendering out sprites, so our sprite is just going to have that stretch frame in it and it will work, which is cool. Also, sprites in general, that's a trick that sprites do generally speaking, because you don't have the in-between, because it's not truly 3D, they'll use a blur frame or a stretch frame or something to fill in big motion. So, you know, one, absolutely, I'm on board with using that. Two, those are really cool tools to use for things like if you have a really big move and you don't have a choice, you can use a blur frame to fill the spacing so it doesn't feel so abrupt, for example, and soften it. So all of those are on the table, absolutely can use them. I won't know if we're going to use them until we get deeper into this 3D rendered as 2D experiment.
Fair enough.
Cool. Naruto, you got anything?
Nope.
All right. For everybody else, as always, thank you so much for being part of this adventure. I hope everybody has an amazing time, day, week, weekend, etc. I will catch you on the next one, which will hopefully be a little less frazzled. Take it easy.